It's clear the newly discovered secret site was configured for making nuclear bomb fuel.
Was the Soviet Union able to develop nuclear capability or not, weapons capability? We know that it did, but did that prevent the collapse of the Soviet Union? The Zionist regime has nuclear weapons. Has that resolved its problem with the Palestinians? The U.S. government has nuclear weapons. Does it help it resolve its problems in Iraq? Pakistan has nuclear weapons. Does it help resolve its own domestic turmoil and problems? Nowadays, nuclear weapons is outdated, in fact, because it is ineffective. You can't really use it.
Question is, can we stop them? We have targeted them. This is a list of all the UN resolutions, several pages long, 3 rounds of sanctions in addition.
We're a member of the IAEA. The IAEA inspects our activities.
I have repeated that we have not seen any undeclared facilities operating in Iran. We have seen any concrete evidence that the Iran program is being weaponized. We have not received any information to that effect. So I haven't heard any other information to the contrary. So while we're still concerned about the nature of the Iranian program, we should not, I do not believe at this stage that we are facing clear and present danger that require that we go beyond diplomacy.
The resolutions, it's had no effect. They defy it with impunity. So these new proposed serious sanctions, should they ever be enacted, and it's dubious that China and Russia would ever go along with it, would they have any effect?
My reporting from Israel tells me no, that most Israelis don't believe it will be serious enough, and I think many Americans probably share that essentially what you would have to do to really get the regime's attention and to stop it would be a naval blockade. Yeah. That's the only way you could sort of strangle the country and perhaps even induce a regime overthrow by Iranians themselves, but merely try to target individual members of the Revolutionary Guard, merely try to do one thing or another, leaves too many porous holes. And don't forget, all the European companies that are doing business there, all the Chinese companies doing business there, they're not going to be deterred if we unilaterally just do sanctions. It's not going to be enough.
The leader of the terrorist group, Jundullah, says the United States offered him broad support, including a military base in Afghanistan, to carry out attacks against Iran. This 2 days after he was arrested on board a passenger plane in southern Iran.
اینها رابطه کرده بودن که ما می‌خوایم با شما ملاقات بکنیم که ما گفته بودیم کجا، اینا گفتن در دبی ما میایم ملاقات می‌کنیم. شما با ما همکاری بکنید، ما هر چی مشکلات شما باشه این افراد از زندان آزاد می‌کنیم، به شما امکانات مالی در اختیارتون می‌ذاریم و امکانات نظامی، اسلحه، مهمات ما برای شما تهیه میکنیم و در اختیارتون میذاریم و پایگاهی هم به شما میدیم در هر جای افغانستان که شما بخواید در مرزهای ایران. این حرفی که اونا آمریکایی‌ها گفته بودن در ملاقات دبی و ما الان موضوع ایرانه. الان نه موضوع القاعده هست و نه موضوع طالبان. ولی این که ما بگیم الان ما برنامه نظامی داریم، نه.
Was arrested in the Iranian city of Bandar Abbas. Jundullah has claimed responsibility for the killing of dozens of Iranian civilians and security forces. Iranian officials say they have evidence that the group was sponsored by the United States and Britain. Washington and London both deny the allegation.
ببینید این عکس است که دقیقاً یک روز قبل از دستگیریش در یکی از مقرهای آمریکایی‌ها در افغانستان از این شرور در واقع گرفته شد.
اونها میگن برای اینکه ما مطمئن بشیم شما سلاح هسته‌ای می‌سازید،
you're not moving towards developing nuclear weapons, then you should not have the ability to produce the nuclear fuel cycle yourselves. This is a deceitful argument. We want to have that fuel cycle ability, and we don't want nuclear weapons. And we're cooperating very closely with the IAEA to ensure that. The questions raised by the IAEA are done on a regular basis. They come and raise these questions on a
اما
regular
سوالهایی که همین آژانس از کشورهای
But when the
اروپایی و
IAEA turns
آمریکا
to the
داره سوالهای
Europeans or the
بسیار
United
پیچیده
States to ask questions, their questions are far more
اما اونا از قدرتشون
complicated.
استفاده میکنن
Because they
پاسخگو
are the
نیستن
powers that have that capability. But they decide to be non-responsive to
و
the
این چیز خوبی
IAEA, whereas
نیست.
we're very responsive to the
این چیز
IAEA.
خوبی
I mean,
نیست.
this kind of double standard
شما
is
ببینید ایران دارای نفوذ
problematic.
فرهنگی است در دنیا.
Iran has a cultural influence around the
ایران رو به
world.
عنوان یک
Iran
فرهنگ
is
میشناسن.
recognized as a culture more than
نه به عنوان یک
anything,
قدرت
not
نظامی.
as a military power.
Well, we've just now positioned our Aegis and other anti-missile defense systems around Iran or nearby, so maybe that's a deterrent effect as well. Michael Goodwin, we'll leave that for another time. Welcome back from Israel, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Greg.
Because in the Mossad you say it this way: if it didn't happen and I reported it, it happened. If it happened and I didn't report it, it didn't happen. And that's the truth. That's the way it is. That's how intelligence agencies grab a hold and take power of your daily life.
But how hard do you think President Obama will be to defeat in 2012?
It depends on a few things. Say he played, and I got this from Buchanan reading one of his columns the other day. Say he played the war card. Say he decided to declare war on Iran or decided to really come out and do whatever he could to support Israel, which I would like him to do. But because I think if the election were today, I do not think Obama would be reelected. But 3 years from now, things could change if on the national security front.
But you're not suggesting that he would cynically play the war card.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying if he did, things would dramatically change. If he decided to toughen up and do all that he can to secure our nation and our allies, I think people would perhaps shift their thinking a little bit and decide, well, maybe he's tougher than we think than he is today, and there wouldn't be as much passion to make sure that he doesn't serve another 4 years.
Iran's Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, has declared repeatedly that Iran will not attack or threaten any country. Iran's Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, has declared repeatedly that Iran will not attack or threaten any country. He has also issued a fatwa against production, stockpiling, and use of nuclear weapons, and banned nuclear weapons as sacrilegious. Iran has been a consistent supporter of the NPT and called for a nuclear weapons-free Middle East. Under U.S. pressure, the UN Security Council ordered Iran to stop enriching uranium and has imposed sanctions without justification. The International Atomic Energy Agency, or the IAEA, is in charge of monitoring the nuclear programs of all countries. The IAEA is supposed to work with countries to resolve issues and report them to the UN Security Council if they cannot be assured that a country has not diverted nuclear material for non-peaceful use. If that happens, the Security Council can then decide to impose sanctions or use force. In the case of Iran, there is no evidence that Iran is building or even intends to build nuclear weapons. India was told there would be no U.S.-India nuclear deal if they did not vote against Iran at the IAEA. Mistrust of Iran is based on the fact that Iran developed reactors in secret for 18 years. The U.S. offers this as evidence that Iran has something to hide, but the undeclared work was justified given the U.S. campaign to undermine any effort to develop out in the open. Iran learned that their contracts with countries like Germany and China would be canceled under U.S. pressure. Thus, Washington systematically violated, with impunity, Article 4 of the NPT, which allows signatories of the fullest possible exchange of equipment, materials, and scientific technological information for the peaceful uses of nuclear energy.